Baltimore, Wednesday morning, mid-November. Synergy Federal Bank, North Harbor Branch, sat quietly inside a sleek, five-story glass building, with polished, brown-veined stone in the lobby and security cameras on every surface. Everything here was clean, by the book, and so sterile. It had no room left for real humanity. A black woman, in a light gray cashmere coat and low heels, walked in at 9:14 a.m. Her hair was neatly pinned at the nape of her neck. A slim crossbody bag hung at her side. Her gaze was calm, so calm. She seemed invisible. No one recognized her. And that was exactly how she wanted it. Monica Rowe, 49 years old, CEO and founder of the Synergy system, walked into the very first branch she opened 18 years ago. She wasn't here to make a scene, and she hadn't announced her visit. She came in as an anonymous customer for three reasons: a suspicion, a gut feeling, and a chill she couldn't shake after reading three complaints filed by black clients within the same quarter. Three reports, none made the press. But Monica read every word, and she came to witness what no internal report ever captured: a look, a tone of voice, a bias wrapped in polite language. She walked straight to the executive services desk. No cutting the line, no noise. "I'd like to verify an escrow transaction from an executive account," she said, her tone measured and quiet. Then she slipped a high-level executive ID card from her pocket, the kind of card only three people across the entire system possessed. The banker, a white man named Trevor, frowned. He looked at the card, then at the woman, then back at the card. "This kind of ID is only issued to top-level leadership," he said slowly. "That's correct," Monica replied, her eyes unchanged. Trevor tapped out a string of keys on his monitor. After a moment, he looked up, his face stiffening. "Would you mind waiting a few minutes? I need to verify a few things," he said. "Of course," Monica nodded, stepping back toward the lobby lounge. But she didn't sit. She stood silent, within 5 paces of the private vault wing. No one paid attention. Or if they did, they pretended not to. The room wasn't cold, but something about the air made others shift uncomfortably in their seats. Polished people in fine leather shoes and gleaming watches began to glance at her with a familiar expression: suspicion. Monica stood quietly in the curated display area, designed to impress VIP clients with soft lighting and the scent of oak wood. But today, it felt more like a silent courtroom. She looked up at the tiny cameras on the ceiling, 8 circular lenses, tied to the automated behavioral monitoring system she herself had approved the budget for 2 years prior. She remembered asking during that meeting, "And what exactly defines unusual behavior? Who gets to decide?" That no one had answered. Now, maybe she was what the system called unusual. Trevor stepped into the back operations room. An internal call was placed quickly. A security guard appeared, then another. Both stood upright, watching Monica from a distance, but their eyes didn't hide it. Caution. Maybe even suspicion. Behind the door, a whispered voice passed through the internal comms. "She's standing near the vault. High-level ID, but no appointment. Could be a fake, Baka. And she's black, be careful. Flag her. She's a security risk." Within 30 seconds, the guards moved. The first one spoke. His hand lightly touched the holster at his side, not drawn, but enough for anyone who knew protocol to understand this was no longer just a reminder. "Ma'am," he said, voice low, "may I ask why you're standing near the vault? You've just been flagged as a potential security risk by our system." Monica didn't flinch. She didn't back away. She didn't pale. She simply lifted her head and looked the man in the eye. Her gaze held no anger, only memory. Memory of every look, every word, every moment like this. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't fight. She asked one question, soft as velvet. sharp as a blade beneath it. Who approved that red flag? Monica Rowe sat down slowly, not because she was tired, but because she needed to listen. The discreet earpiece hidden beneath her collar was still active. Audio from the branch's internal security feeds streamed directly into her ear, a feature she had personally approved during Synergy's expansion beyond the Washington metro area. Trevor's voice came through the feed from the operations room, sharp and fast. "I don't know who she is, but she's weird. No fear, no panic. Very confident. Could be high-level fraud. I flagged her, waiting for regional confirmation." Monica tilted her head just a subtle motion, like adjusting her collar, but in truth, she was scanning her fingerprint to unlock the top-tier executive override system. A second phone non-SIM. Secure channel lit up with the message. Status, executive surveillance, active. Protocol, M-Blackout 72. A command that only one person in the entire system had the authority to activate. Her. Meanwhile, down the hall, Trevor knocked on the branch manager's door. Meredith Shaw, platinum hair, black suit, eyes sharp as a paper cut, looked up. "What is it, suspicious individual?" he said quietly. "Executive level ID, no appointment. Black female, around 50. Flagged as security risk." Meredith frowned. "Transaction request, escrow verification executive account." Without another word, Meredith stood, adjusted her jacket, and said, "Notify regional security, code Echo Red. I'll monitor remotely at the same time." Monica opened the internal surveillance dashboard. Every staff action in the branch logged, time-stamped, and traceable. Trevor employee ID 54127 had personally flagged her file. Unknown black female. Vault proximity. Suspicious access ID. No request for dual verification. No supervisor approval. Trevor did it on his own, and the system obeyed. Monica didn't blink. She forwarded the log directly to Central Compliance at Synergy's Washington, D.C. headquarters. The lights in the operations floor flicked on. 3 people in gray suits left their workstations, each carrying an unmarked leather briefcase and wearing unreadable expressions. No need for discussion, only action. Back in North Harbor, a young employee named Evelyn Tran happened to walk past Monica. She slowed, hesitated. Something in her expression shifted recognition. Maybe. Or just the instinct of someone still young enough to trust her gut more than KPIs. "Ma'am, would you like some water?" Monica nodded gently. "Thank you." Just a few words. But it was the first time that morning someone had called her ma'am instead of that woman. Minutes later, Trevor returned Meredith at his side. They stood before her. No invitation to sit, no smiles. Meredith spoke first, her voice smooth as silk over steel. "We are still in the process of verification. Until confirmation is received, we kindly ask you to step away from the executive services area." Monica looked up. "Does this verification process include flagging someone as a security risk despite no legal violations?" Meredith kept her composure. "It's an automated alert. And who entered the alert?" Trevor shifted slightly, stepping back. But Monica didn't wait. She held out her phone, showing them the screen. The log clearly displayed Trevor's manual entry of the flag. No approval, no second review. She didn't raise her voice, didn't accuse. She just looked at them. Not with rage, but with the calm gaze of someone who's lived through enough suspicion to know that politeness can be a form of violence when paired with prejudice. "You don't know who I am," she said, "but you already decided what I am." The bank's glass doors opened. 3 strangers walked in, 2 men. 1 woman. No badges, no name tags. They didn't ask for the manager. They didn't check in. The older woman stepped forward, holding a sealed audit document stamped in red. "We're here under Order M-Blackout 72, signed by Director Monica Rowe. Effective immediately. This branch is under full audit. All equipment, Data, security footage, and personnel records are now frozen pending investigation. No one answered. Trevor nearly stepped back. Meredith gripped her leather briefcase tighter. Employees behind the counter began to realize they were no longer inside a bank. They were standing inside an ethics review. Monica rose. She didn't introduce herself. She didn't need to. Her presence had already done that. She walked past Trevor, not with a glare, not with contempt. She just spoke loud enough for him to hear. Fearing someone because you don't know who they are, that's instinct. But labeling them because they don't look like you, that's a choice. And then she walked out. No sound. No resistance. Behind her, every eye remained locked on the phone she left on the table. Its screen still glowing, still showing the same line of text, executive-level monitoring in progress. Monica Rowe didn't look back. As the glass doors closed behind her, the soft click sounded like a full stop. Not the end of a story, but the official beginning of a silent trial now underway inside. She walked slowly past the steps outside the branch, the same place where, just 2 months earlier, a 16-year-old black boy had been asked to prove he had a bank account, simply for walking in with a backpack and hoodie. Monica had read the report. She remembered the exact response from the branch employee acted on. Perceived potential risk. Perceived. That word always sent a chill down her spine. She paused beside the marble flower bed, glancing back through the large window. Inside, 3 audit officers were speaking with Meredith and Trevor, neither of whom stood as tall as they had earlier. No raised voices, no shouting. She had shaken the entire branch with one thing: truth. Inside, the tension was visible on every face. Employees had been separated into small groups. Personal computers were confiscated. All outbound calls, not on the internal network, were being logged and flagged. Meredith Shaw tried to hold on to her image of leadership. She approached a desk, reached for a binder of internal reports, and as she turned, her eyes locked onto the gold-plated plaque on the wall behind the reception desk. Synergy Federal, founded by Monica Rowe, 2005. She froze. For the first time in her 12 years as branch manager, Meredith realized she had been standing too close to power without ever recognizing it. She had read that name 100 times. But never once did she imagine that the woman in the simple coat and modest handbag was the one who built this place from nothing. Meanwhile, at the Western Regional Office, an urgent report arrived at the executive command floor. The first person to read it was Darren Cho, VP of Human Resources Oversight. As soon as he saw Monica Rowe listed on the activation log, he shut his laptop. Years ago, Monica had chosen Darren as her assistant when he was just a 24-year-old intern. She once told him banks aren't built from stone, they're built from trust. And every time someone is misjudged, even just by a look, we remove a brick from the foundation. Darren picked up the phone, dialing an internal escalation line. Pull me a report every discrimination case in the last 12 months. All branches with a risk class 3 flag. I want it printed, on my desk, in 2 hours. Back in North Harbor, Evelyn Tran sat quietly in a corner of the waiting area, her coffee cold in her hand. She stared at the door where Monica had walked out, unsettled. She remembered last year, in an internal meeting. Meredith had brushed past her after Evelyn proposed adding multilingual nameplates in the lobby. Meredith had replied icily, "We don't need customers feeling like they've stepped into an East Asian market." That comment haunted Evelyn for nights. She had written a complaint, then deleted it. But today, as Evelyn saw a black woman surrounded by suspicious stares, by guards, by procedures disguised as best practice, she felt like she was watching herself, just in a different skin. In the urgent review room, the auditors were replaying the branch flag logs: time, reason, staff ID. Trevor's name was crystal clear. The note unidentified, black, near vault. No dual verification requested. No interview. No system photo match. Nothing, one auditor asked. Meredith swallowed. Trevor said he didn't feel safe, so he acted quickly. Felt. The auditor repeated. And because of that feeling, he labeled the CEO a security risk. No one replied. One of the auditors quietly wrote in his report, monitoring tools were weaponized for judgment, rather than used for objective evaluation. Back at Synergy HQ in Washington, Monica entered her private office. She didn't take off her coat. She simply opened her laptop and pulled up a file labeled Bias Log, North Harbor. The first line she typed, "If even a golden gaze can be doubted, how much more suspicion must those with nothing shiny endure?" She didn't need anyone to validate who she was. She knew exactly who she was. And she knew clearly who no longer deserved to stand behind a desk with her name on the plaque. On screen, the live behavior metrics began to shift. The employee conduct system reported unusual data surges over the past 90 minutes. A good sign. Someone in that branch had started typing into the anonymous reflection form. She leaned back, didn't type another word, just watched the chart slowly shift from gray to green. And in that quiet moment, she understood not everyone in the bank was broken. Sometimes, all it takes is one person brave enough to speak, and everything can change. In the North Harbor waiting area, Evelyn stood. She walked straight to the audit desk. I have something to say," she began, voice trembling. I recognized her, and I think I've been quiet for too long." One of the auditors gave a slow nod. "Then today is the right time," he said. "Time to begin. By telling the truth." Third floor, North Harbor branch. A mezzanine, rarely visited by clients, was now crowded in silence. A small meeting room at the end of the hallway had become a temporary command center. 3 auditors sat around the table, each with encrypted laptops, directly connected to the bank's internal security core. The door sealed with a special key card. The alarm system switched to on-site command mode. Downstairs, on the ground floor, everything had come to a halt. Staff weren't allowed to leave their stations. Transaction systems had switched to manual override. Every request now had to be verified in person, nothing automated. Even the air conditioning felt tense. Meredith Shaw still tried to appear in control. She walked between desks, occasionally nodding, gesturing as if everything's under control, though she couldn't believe it herself. She'd spent nearly 20 years in finance, but never had she been subjected to an emergency audit, let alone one triggered personally by the CEO. Everyone knew what M Blackout 72 meant. A severe breach had occurred, internal authority had been abused, and a clear act of prejudice or discrimination was suspected. She knew she was standing on thin ice, and that ice was cracking by the minute. In the VIP lounge, now emptied of clients, Trevor sat frozen at his desk, staring at the disconnected icon on his screen. His system access had been revoked. Across from him, 2 auditors quietly sifted through printed documents, client complaints, flag logs, recorded behavioral audio. Trevor felt like his skin was being peeled off layer by layer without anesthesia. He couldn't argue that he didn't know who Monica Rowe was. But in that moment, in his mind, a black woman near the vault had been enough. And that decision was now destroying his career by the minute. In the central operations room, personnel behavior charts glowed on the big screen. One of the auditors, the eldest, a black man wearing reading glasses, pointed at a red zone on the chart, flagged as a risk without dual verification. No advisory call made, no system photo matched, no personnel file opened prior to labeling. His voice was steady, like reading a charge sheet in court. This isn't negligence. This was a choice, a deliberate action, and clearly biased. Another auditor nodded. Recommend full personnel investigation. Meanwhile, at Synergy HQ in Washington, Monica Rowe sat in a virtual meeting with independent board members. No anger, no need to clarify. Everything was already recorded on a system she built. And that system, this time, was protecting her. "I don't need an investigation to know they were wrong," she said, eyes straight into the camera. "I need an investigation to make sure the system knows we do not turn away when wrong is committed under the name of professional suspicion." A regional director asked softly, "How far are you planning to go, Monica?" She leaned back in her chair. "All the way to the root." Back at the branch, an internal message appeared on every still active terminal branch operations suspended for 72 hours for internal audit. This directive originates from Executive Command. Cannot be appealed. Evelyn Tran, the only employee who had referred to Monica as ma'am that day, rather than that woman, sat in silence at her desk. Her heart pounded, but not from fear. She had just received an email. From Monica. Short, personal. "I heard you. Today. You did what many have forgotten how to do. You spoke up. Thank you." Evelyn rested her hands on the keyboard. She didn't type a reply. She just let her hands stay there. For the first time, she felt she was in the right place. Not because it was polished or professional, but because there was justice in the room. Hours later, a gray SUV pulled up outside the branch. Monica stepped out. No entourage. No escort. She walked past the lobby, the same place where, just yesterday, security had approached her like a suspect. Today, they bowed their heads, not because they were told to, but because they knew. The mistake hadn't been in the procedure. It had been in the assumption. She said nothing. She didn't have to. Upstairs, in the third-floor meeting room, Meredith was asked to sign a temporary suspension acknowledgement, removing her from branch leadership pending investigation. Her voice was lower than usual, but she didn't resist. She understood now fighting would only drag her deeper into the hole she had dug for herself. As she stepped away from the table, she glanced once more at the golden plaque on the wall, founded by Monica Rowe. For the first time, she didn't read it as a nameplate. She read it as a reminder. Within the internal system, Protocol M Blackout 72 change status. Preliminary complete. Expansion in progress. A new prompt appeared on the control panel at headquarters. Initiate review of all Class 3 flags in past 18 months. Monica stared at it, then clicked. No hesitation. This wasn't retaliation. It was a cleansing. The next morning, the sign outside North Harbor branch was covered in white cloth. Not for repairs, not for a ceremony. The real reason Monica Rowe didn't want anyone walking into that building thinking everything is the same. Inside, the lighting was still soft. The coffee machine still hummed. The mop still sat neatly in its corner. But something had changed. And it wasn't the floor wax. An emergency all-staff meeting began at 9 a.m. Every employee except the 3 who had been suspended sat in the main conference room. Monica stood at the head of the table. No podium, no speech. She held no papers, just a 38-page internal behavioral audit, compiled in less than 72 hours. "Everyone in this room," she began, "was hired through an official process. Background checks, interviews. No one ended up here by accident." Silence. But banks aren't destroyed by bad people walking in. They're destroyed when good people stay silent while wrong is happening. One older staffer looked down. Evelyn sat up straight, hands on the table. She had learned not to lower her head anymore. Monica looked around the room. "I used to believe that if I built enough processes, created enough oversight, and maintained enough internal reports, then fairness would take care of itself." She placed the file down. "I was wrong." A soft rustle. Someone flipped pages, looking for their own name in the employee behavior log. Monica went on to recount what had happened 2 days earlier, with 0 omissions. No emotional flourishes, just the facts. Who did what? Who said what? What the system recorded. With every word. The air got heavier. Someone asked why I didn't just say who I was right away. She said, looking up. Because if I have to prove who I am to deserve basic respect, then that respect was broken to begin with, after her remarks. Monica asked each person to sign a commitment document. You no longer have the right to pretend you didn't know. No one signed out of fear. They signed because they understood. If they didn't choose the right side today, they might not get another chance to choose again. An hour later, Monica walked down into the old records vault, where past behavior reports labeled internal only, management eyes only, were stored. She requested access to every file in the Manager Confidential folder. One by one, they opened the drawers, blocked complaints. Customer experience reviews removed from analysis. Manager notes using terms like unstable, suspicious, uncooperative. Monica turned to the lead auditor and said, "We don't need to polish the floor. We need to strip away the wax hiding the rot underneath." That afternoon, Monica sent a company-wide memo to all 9,000 Synergy employees across 46 states, titled, "A bank doesn't need to be polished. It needs to be clean. Inside." She wrote, "A culture left unchecked gives birth to complacency. Complacency breeds carelessness. And carelessness destroys the only thing a customer ever truly gives us: trust." The closing line. Behavior will now be audited not because we don't trust each other, but because trust must be protected with truth. That evening, Monica didn't go home. She stopped by a small Synergy branch in the suburbs. She sat quietly on a wooden bench, watching a young teller help an elderly woman use the ATM. No one recognized her. No one said her name. And that was exactly what she wanted. She didn't need people to know her face, only how to treat others when they believed no one was watching. The next day, internal media reported Synergy suspends 2 managers and 1 staff member at North Harbor. 18-month audit on indirect discrimination practices launched. No headlines in the national press. No scandal. No courtroom drama. But within the heart of every Synergy employee, a shift had begun, not from pay stubs, but from conscience. Monica returned to her office. She looked out through the tall window, where the late autumn sun fell on the trees lining the park outside headquarters. She remembered a line from her mother, a schoolteacher in Atlanta, who was once denied a bank account because she couldn't prove a stable income. Her mother had said, "You don't need them to call you boss. You just need them to stop making you prove you're a person." A week later, at the quarterly board meeting, Monica ended her presentation with one final line: "Justice doesn't begin in a courtroom. It begins the moment a black woman walks into a bank and someone decides what they see."